Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional from the world of books and publishing from Valencia, Spain, Mr. Ben Gioia. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. Ben is a book coach, a business strategist, and a publishing advisor. So, Ben, before we talk about book coaching, tell me a little bit about your own journey and what inspired you to become a book and publishing advisor.
Thank you so much for asking. So funny the paths that our lives take us on. I have wanted to write a book since I was 12 years old, and I started writing when I was 12 years old, and never expected to do the work that I'm doing, and ended up in a couple of interesting circumstances. One was doing too many drugs for way too many years and finding a lot of suffering through that experience, and then learning how to transform that suffering actually from my time living in India, where a couple of interesting things happened. I was on a hike in southern India, and I faced death 4 times in 72 hours. And then I was on a hike in the Himalayas, and I managed to do 9 days of hiking with blisters on my Achilles tendons. So understood the difference between pain and suffering, right? And I took all of that wisdom and brought it into the book writing experience, and basically come from the perspective, first and foremost, of if you're going to write a book, how do you guarantee that the book is going to work, right? Number 2, if you're going to write that book, how do you make sure to leverage the book to attract clients and strategic partners even before the book is done?
Right.
And 3, how do you not suffer through the process of creating that book?
Amazing. Amazing. Well said. Well said. So let's talk about book coaching now, Ben. What are some of the first steps you take or you look at before you take a new book and take them down their book writing journey?
Yeah, thank you. So I do something that I've not seen any other book coaches doing, and I hope more of them will do this because it will serve the authors and serve the books. But I teach my clients how to have conversations with their ideal clients about the book at the beginning of the writing process, so they understand very specifically the lens for the book, right? The right kind of focus to have, so they understand the language to use for the book because they're speaking to their ideal clients. And if they're having the conversations correctly, following my methodology, they're actually laying the groundwork, either developing or deepening a relationship where the person that they're speaking with can become a client or a strategic partner, right? And this is how we make sure the book is going to work before we even start writing the book.
Well said. Thank you. And what are some of the common challenges a lot of authors face when writing a book? And how do you assist or help the authors to overcome these challenges?
Thank you. Thank you. So the one I hear most of the time is, I don't have enough time to write the book. And I say, yes, you do, because if you have conversations with your ideal clients and you do things like use the outline that I provide and not overthink the logistics of the book, if you use things like dictation and writing formulas to bring forth the book, and you don't try to include every single thing that you know in the book, then you can get the book done quickly. And for my clients, they can get a first draft done in as little as 13 weeks.
Wow. And one of the things that I have often seen, and I've faced it myself, is, when you start writing a book and then the motivation disappears to write the book, or you hit writer's block. How do you keep your clients motivated and on track?
Thank you. That's a great question. So the first thing is I encourage them, remind them repeatedly not to rely on inspiration, but to rely on discipline, methodology, and process to get the book done. And the second one is when those difficult feelings come up, the fear, the doubt, the shame, the judgment, anything like that, I teach them and I have them practice a smiling meditation. So literally smiling and relaxing and breathing, and helping them to practice not getting involved with the feelings, the uncomfortable feelings that are coming up, because they didn't ask for the feelings to come up, and yet there they are. So they can either get involved and get off track and not bring the book to the world, right? Or not take the feelings personally, smile, relax, and get back to it. And the other part of this is that for the types of books that I help people with, which are nonfiction business books that help position them as experts, there is no such thing as imposter syndrome, because if they've had, I should say there's no such thing as writer's block, because if they've had conversations with their ideal clients, then they know what they need to talk about in the space of the book, and they can just go back to their notes.
Amazing. And, you did mention a few minutes back about how you're different, but what sets your coaching apart from others in the same business?
Yeah, thank you. So first and foremost, it's the conversations about the book, right, which helps people attract clients and strategic partners long before the book is done. I mean, I had a client get a 5-figure speaking fee before her book was done. Somebody else got a 6-figure consulting gig. So lots of wonderful outcomes. Some of it is that I give an outline to follow, that I encourage dictation, and some of it is the amount of support that I give. I am available every single week through the process, both live, on Zoom, in teaching context, in accountability context, and I let my authors, or I invite my authors, to message me on WhatsApp whenever they want with any kind of question, for any kind of encouragement, because for the whole process, the writing, the editing, and the publishing, I have their back 1,000%.
Well said. And can you explain to me your influence with the heart method and how it helps your clients write their books in just 5 weeks?
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of it I've given voice to in terms of the methodology, but from a bigger picture, it's bringing empathy into the mix in a big way, right? To understand one's clients, to really dig deeply into understanding their stories, to ask them their stories and understand where they're coming from, but also for my clients to share their stories, because in this way they can cultivate empathy in 2 directions, right? Empathy to the client, empathy from the client. The other one is the storytelling itself, right? Storytelling is the oldest form of human communication, or one of the oldest forms. Right? Before cave drawings, we were telling stories around the fire. So to be able to rely on stories as powerful transformational tools, and to understand that you can tell a story in as little as 6 words. Stories don't have to take pages and pages. My favorite story from someone named John Kurtz, I believe his name is Kentucky trash heap yields beautiful flower, or something like that. Right? So much power in story.
Absolutely.
And then the last part of the influence with the heart method is thought leadership, right? Is to recognize that we are all experts. We're all continuing to evolve and build our skills and capabilities, and we are all experts to own and stand in that space and share and offer our wisdom to the world as a way to serve and help transform, whether we're reaching 1 person, 10,000, or 10 million people.
Great response. Thank you. How does integrating a strategic business development plan into the writing process benefit an author?
Thank you. So many authors or authors-to-be mistakenly think that they have to wait until the book is published and in the world to actually leverage the book, right? And for me, the idea is, how can you leverage the book even from the point of the idea? So I had the experience of, when I was writing my second book, which was the first time I titled one of my books Influence with a Heart, right? I had the cover designed, I put it up on LinkedIn, and I said, hooray, I'm celebrating the soon to be published second book of mine. And somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we're creating a mindfulness and empathy video game with a Fortune 100 company in MIT. It's going to be played by 20,000 customer experience employees. we saw your book, even though they only saw the cover of the book. They said, we saw your book and we'd like to talk to you about writing the curriculum. And that turned into a 10-month consulting project and almost double six-figure salary or fee for me, right? So that whole idea of leveraging the idea long before it's published, before the book is published, to establish relationships that turn into clients, that turn into strategic partners. That's the essence right there.
Amazing. So one more question relating to coaching, and then I'll come to publishing. One of the biggest challenges a lot of authors face is once they have published their book, they don't know how to market it. And publishers don't give too much support in marketing a book.
Right.
What are some effective strategies for a newly published first book?
Yes, thank you. So at the risk of repeating myself, it's continuing to have conversations with ideal clients and partners about the book. Before it's written, while it's being written, after it's being written. Always use the book as a reason to have conversations with people, because in that way you can develop partnerships with people who will promote the book for you. You can develop relationships with people who will integrate what you teach into their programs, right? There's so many kinds of partnership opportunities, affiliate opportunities, all those kinds of things. And I come from the perspective of, although book sales are lovely, book sales are not what make the biggest impact most of the time. So I will say to people, hey, if you'd like to make $100,000, would you rather try to sell 90 or 100,000 books, which requires an incredible amount of time, money, and energy? Or would you like to send copies of your books to 1, 5, 10, 20 people who can hire you and collaborate with you and get you to that $100,000 mark much, much faster? So for me, it all comes down to relationships. So why spend all this extra time doing this outside loud marketing and just making a lot of noise? And instead, let's just develop the relationships with people who can say yes to us.
Fascinating. So Ben, now let's talk a little bit about publishing. And you've been in this business for a long time. For my viewers and listeners, tell us, how has the publishing landscape changed and evolved? And what do aspiring authors need to know?
Thank you. Wow, so many things. Well, the internet certainly has upended the publishing world in so many ways, and has really helped open the door for people like us, right? Coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, solopreneurs, right? Small business owners, because self-publishing, or what I like to term professional self-publishing, author-controlled publishing, right? That has come into the fray and really opened the doors for people like you and me. And where traditional publishing often has quite a few restrictions, which I imagine we'll talk about in a few minutes, the self-publishing, professional self-publishing, right? And I keep saying professional because you don't want to do publishing by yourself, right? In the same way that you don't want to fix your own electricity or fix your own toilet, right? Hire a professional to help you, because professional self-publishing is what opens the door to us and brings so much more opportunity than there ever has been before. And because of this, each of us individually can make a much bigger impact and be in a greater level of service to a world that needs it now more than ever.
Amazing. Thank you. And what does concierge publishing involve, or what does it mean? And how does it benefit authors?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, concierge publishing is making use of a publisher who takes care of all of the publishing tasks, if you will, right? So the cover design, the interior design, the proofreading, the keywords, the categories, the distribution, all of those kinds of things. So in the past, very often, if you wanted to publish a book, you had to hire multiple people to do each of those aspects individually and then manage all of those people. So to be able to collaborate with a company who can do it all under one roof is the way to go. And because there's so much energy and intensity in creating a book, even with an optimized process, right? The last thing you want to do is be worrying about all the different logistics of bringing forth a book, and instead to be able to have a professional handle it and relieve yourself
Yeah.
of that psychic load and really just focus on the content of the book and the people that you're serving thanks to the book.
Well said. And over the years, I've also noticed there is a lot of technology that has come into publishing. And of course, now there are all these digital books available and so on. How is technology and digital media changing publishing?
Great question. So in a great many ways, it has been changing publishing. It will continue to change publishing. I mean, one is just allowing ebooks to come into the world, opens up the door for so many people. Like, I'll speak about myself. I love reading. I read voraciously, and I read books on my phone, and I can carry 15 books around at a time on my phone. I mean, I can carry more of that, but I can look at 15 books on my phone very, very easily, right? And I mean, that for me is one of the greatest parts. And then electron or technology in terms of publishing also opens the door to the different ways that people want to consume books, right? Some people want to read, some people want to listen, some people want to read paperback or hardcover, some people want to read on their phone or on their tablet, right? So all of those options to really meet people where and how they want to consume the material. And then the last part of it, of course, is AI, right? AI is doing so many things in the world, positively and negatively too. And there are a lot of people who think, oh, I can just have AI write my book. You can if you want to write a really crappy book, sure. Right? And I'm not knocking AI, right? Like many tools, AI, it's how is the tool used?
Absolutely.
Right? So if you want to leverage AI for your book, get a lot of the book written and then use AI to help you edit, to help you flesh out ideas, to help you extract a book description and things like that. Because what's most important with your book, or one of the most important things, is to have your authentic voice in your book. And if that's not there, AI will not capture it for you.
All right. Absolutely. Well said. So, time for two more questions for you. How can writing and publishing a book impact an author's career and business? And I know you've told me a little bit about how you can get speaking assignments and consulting assignments.
Yep. Yeah, so there is this funny aspect of books that has been around for decades, if not hundreds of years, where there is an assumption that if you've written a book, people think you know something. Oh my goodness, you've written a book, you must be an expert, you must be smart.
Yeah.
Right. And there's that instant credibility, that instant authority that comes simply from seeing that you have a book in the first place. Right. So that's a part of it, because very often if you have a book and another candidate for, let's say, a speaking gig doesn't have a book, right? If you have equivalent qualifications otherwise, very often you with the book will be chosen over the person who doesn't have the book.
Yeah.
Right? I also love using books as ways to begin relationships with people, right? Potential clients, to send them a hardcover copy of my book with a nice note inside, right? So rather than an email, I mean, of course, I'll send an email as well, but to have a physical item that will sit on their desk, something that they can carry with them, so I can literally stay top of mind with and for them. Right? That is one of the most beautiful gifts, I think, about books, right? Because we can lose track of so many things on our computers and tablets and phones, right? And for me, very much, out of sight, out of mind, right? So to avoid that, to bring forth the book. And then I love the idea of, Ashutosh, I don't know if you've ever seen at a wedding, or I've seen this in the US, a pyramid of champagne glasses. right? And when to fill up all these glasses, you don't fill them up individually, but you pour the champagne into the
Yeah.
top glass and it all cascades down. So I like to think of our books as that top glass. So, and all the things that we can create coming from this
The book. Yeah.
apex, this center point, because we can then create a podcast, a set of blogs, a training, a keynote, 25 different things. I have a list in my book of all this different content that we can create almost instantaneously, or at least with very, very minor changes, because we have the book, because we've done the business development, because we've spoken to our ideal clients, and then we are not reinventing the wheel, but leveraging and repurposing the wisdom and expertise and information that we've already gathered and brought into a powerful form.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. And my last question for you, Ben, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. What are 3 essential tips that you would give to someone wanting to start writing their first book?
Thank you very
Other
much.
than, of course, get Ben as your coach.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. The first one is to absolutely write it. There are people waiting for your message right now, and really only for your message right now. And you don't know how long you're going to live. I don't know how long I'm going to live. Right? I was a hospice volunteer for several years, and you do not want to live with regrets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't want to pass away with regrets. So number 1 is do it. Number 2 is to recognize that, yes, there is some work to do, but time is not an issue, right? If you remember from the beginning of this podcast, right, we talked about all the reasons why it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And number 3 is, again, to repeat myself, talk to your ideal clients about the book you're writing at the beginning of the process, so you know where and how to focus, so you know the language to include, and so you can use the book to develop or deepen relationships that turn into clients or strategic partners, or both.
Yeah, well said. And on that note, and your 3 wonderful tips, write your book if you are thinking about it. People are waiting out there to get your message, recognize there is work to do, and talk to your clients about your book. Thank you, Ben, for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for speaking to me about so many different aspects of book coaching. And it's amazing how your programs like Influence with a Heart are helping so many authors. Thank you also for giving me and giving us so many different perspectives on publishing. I think one of the most difficult things what people face is how to write. And when they write, then they don't know how to publish. And when they publish, they don't know how to market. But I think you are taking care of that for a lot of authors. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.